This story is not for the faint of heart. It's based on a document supposedly uncovered in 1998, a testimony from 1976 that was so disturbing the police filed it away, hoping it would never see the light of day. It all begins with a doll that defies all explanation. It's 1976, in a quiet, isolated rural village. A 7-year-old girl named Helena vanishes without a trace. Her disappearance sends a wave of panic through the small community. The police search everywhere: the woods, the nearby river, every house in the village. But after days of fruitless searching, they find their first and only clue. It wasn't in the woods or by the river. It was in the dusty, cobweb-filled attic of Helena's family home, an old, creaking house that had stood for generations. There, sitting in a dark corner, was a doll. At first glance, it looked like any other old, forgotten toy. It was hand-sewn with button eyes and yarn for hair. But as the investigators got closer, they noticed something was horribly wrong. The doll wasn't made of cloth or porcelain. It was covered in a strange, pale material. It had a texture, a grain, almost like leather, but softer, more pliable. It looked impossibly, terrifyingly, like human skin. Helena's parents were adamant they had never seen this doll before. It didn't belong to their daughter. It didn't belong in their house. It was an intruder, a silent, unsettling visitor. The police, baffled, decided to leave the doll with the family for the night, hoping it might jog a memory or provide a clue. That decision would haunt Helena's mother forever. That evening, as twilight settled over the house, she placed the doll on a shelf in the living room. But every time she glanced at it, something was different. First, its head was turned slightly to the left. A few minutes later, its gaze was fixed directly on the bedroom door. She swore she saw its little cloth arm move, its hand now resting on the edge of the shelf. It was as if the doll was watching, waiting, anticipating someone's return. The next morning, the terrified mother insisted the police take the doll away. It was sent to a forensic expert for analysis. The report that came back was more chilling than anyone could have imagined. The material covering the doll was not fabric, not leather, not any synthetic substance. The examination confirmed their worst fears. It was real human skin. Under the microscope, they could see pores, hair follicles, and the faint, overlapping patterns of human tissue. The doll was stitched together with a crude needle and thread, but its covering was undeniably organic, taken from a human body. The question was, who's with the doll now secured in an evidence locker at the police station? A new wave of strangeness began. The officers working the night shift started reporting inexplicable sounds. It started with faint whispers, like children giggling, seeming to come from inside the walls. Then came the sound of tiny, rapid footsteps, scurrying across the floorboards of the empty rooms above. But the most unnerving sound was the scratching, a persistent, rhythmic scratching on wood, like a small animal trapped, or something desperately trying to get out. The sounds always seemed to be closest to the evidence room, where the doll was kept. As the strange events escalated, investigators uncovered an old audio reel from 1976. It was a recorded interview with Helena's mother, conducted just days after the girl's disappearance. The tape begins normally. The officer asks questions, and the mother responds, her voice trembling with grief. But as she starts describing the night she spent with the doll, her voice grows more frantic. She talks about the doll's eyes following her, about a cold spot in the room. Then, the recording is cut short. All you can hear is the mother letting out a piercing scream, followed by a loud thud, as if the microphone had been knocked to the floor. And then, silence. The tape was never finished. Desperate for answers, the police expanded their investigation into the village's history. An old villager, hearing about the doll, came forward with a box of documents left by his grandfather. These papers, dating back to the 1930s, told a horrifying story. They spoke of a local sect, a dark cult that practiced forbidden rituals. They believed that by sacrificing a child and sewing their skin onto an inanimate object, they could imprison the child's spirit, preserving their presence on Earth. The doll wasn't just a toy, it was a vessel, a prison made of flesh. The skin was the cage. The story reaches its macabre finale back at the police station. One night, during the darkest hours before dawn, the doll vanished from its sealed evidence locker. There were no signs of a break-in. The lock was intact. The officers on duty saw and heard nothing. It was only when they reviewed the footage from the station's old, grainy security cameras that they saw it. A small, dark shadow, moving unnaturally fast. It scuttled across the floor on all fours, a grotesque, childlike figure. In its arms, it was carrying something. The doll. The figure moved out of the camera's view and was gone. The case of Helena and the skin doll was officially closed, filed away as unsolved. But legends in that small village never truly die. To this day, some locals claim to see something strange on the fog-covered rural roads at night. They talk of a small, pale child, walking alone. A child who is always seen holding a hand-sewn doll. And those who claim to have gotten a closer look say the doll's skin looks unnervingly fresh, as if it is constantly being renewed. The legend never ended, because some things, once created, can never truly be destroyed. Thank you for listening. If you're fascinated by the unexplained, make sure to follow for more stories from the shadows.